Okay, y'all ready? All right, I'll call the meeting to order. That's agenda item number 1. Item number 2 is we are in compliance with the open meeting law.
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, men's LVMC 19.12.070 to authorize a waiver of minimum distance separation requirements for liquor establishments, tavern uses that qualify for a general on-sale alcoholic beverage license sponsored by Councilwoman Tarkanian.
Okay, for the record, Mary McElhone, Deputy Planning Director. In this ordinance, Title 19 would be amended, which would allow a waiver of the distance separation of 1,500 feet from another tavern for general on-sale use. Title 6 would also be amended, and what it would do is it would add amusement theme park as a general on-sale use. It would also include a new definition, and that definition for amusement theme park would mean a theme park of at least 100,000 square feet of public space.
You guys are good with this?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, any more staff? Nobody? Okay, I'll open up the public comment. Anybody from the public want to speak on this item?
I would like to talk about the sale of single containers.
Okay, but does that have to do with this item here?
It could.
The single containers have anything to do with this, Mary?
For the record, Mary McElhone, no, in this particular ordinance, this is just expanding general on sale to include a new type of establishment, and then it also allows for a waiver of a distance separation.
Okay, nothing to do with single?
Nothing to do with single sales.
Okay.
Solve that.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's an ongoing issue here in the city, especially in the downtown core, about the sale of single containers, but this doesn't involve it, so
It doesn't
we'll continue.
Okay, so any public comment on the agenda item? Okay, no public comment, so Councilman Coffin.
I'll move with the understanding that the Councilman Tarkanian supports this because this is a single purpose action for a very large planned development in her ward inside of the freeway there. It should be spectacular. But I think, just want to ask this, is it so broad that it would include anything in any other ways? Or has this been drawn so tightly that it will work at that spot?
Councilman Coffin, this has been drawn pretty tightly, so it should work at this other spot. We actually sent staff out to some of our other smaller amusement centers just to make sure that they wouldn't immediately qualify for this, and they would not.
Okay.
Because you need 100,000 square feet of public space, which is very large.
Okay. Then I move for approval.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair? Could you read that?
Okay, this item, which is 36, will be heard at the November 15th, 2017 City Council meeting. Thanks, Tom. All righty, we'll go to item number 4. Bill number 2017-37 for possible action amends provisions of LVMC Chapter 19.12 to update standards applicable for the use animal keeping and husbandry, including the addition of provisions to allow the use in R1 and RMH district as a conditional use sponsored by Councilman Coffin. Who would like to speak on? Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Peter Lowenstein, Acting Planning Director. This would amend the animal keeping and husbandry to allow in the R1 and RMH districts that have developed for single-family residents 5 chickens for personal consumption of eggs, and the chickens should be contained in a coop and would be a minimum of 20 feet from any primary structure on an adjacent lot.
And R1 and RMH, what? Just describe those zoning.
R1 is a single-family residential zoning district, a minimum of 6,500 square foot lots. RMH is the residential motor home, but can be developed as a single-family lot. In those cases, this use would only be allowed if it was developed as a single-family residence on that lot.
So for a single for just a regular lot like I have, it wouldn't affect me, correct?
That's correct. If you were in an R1 or RMH, this would give you the ability to have 5 chickens.
but not a residential neighborhood, a regular residential neighborhood with a lot. Would they be able to have chickens?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If you're in an R1 or RMH district.
Oh, so this isn't a rural thing.
No, this is an urban.
This is
Urban
It's a urban chicken.
thousands of
It's
chickens,
downtown chickens.
downtown chickens.
Okay, well,
6,200 square
okay,
feet though.
hold on, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, did you guys want to say anything else on this?
Put a gag on that.
The only thing I would add is we looked at the other jurisdictions in the valley and were very similar to those ordinances that have been adopted recently.
So Henderson allows residential chickens?
They do.
They do. Okay, and if I wanted to have chickens in my backyard, what would I be able to do?
If you were in the R1 or RMH district, you'd be limited to 5 chickens, and the production of eggs would be for personal consumption. You'd have to have them contained in a coop, and that coop would have to be 20 feet away from any adjacent residence.
So they just can't wander around the backyard?
No free-range chickens.
No free range, okay. Okay, so I'll open this up to public comment. Who would like to speak on this particular item? Anybody for or against or indifferent? Okay, no public comment. All right, Councilman Coffin, I guess you're requesting this, so.
I think that maybe, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, not spoken, but I think in the other parts of the code that are cited, Val, does this require neighbor cooperation? It's essentially, there needs to be.
Well, it was brought to my attention,
Pre-existing.
I'm sorry, Val Steve Dickinson. It was brought to my attention this morning that there was a possible intent to also amend the provisions of Title VII that require neighbor input, and I didn't know that that was part of this effort. So we'll have to look at that and see if we can sweep this in when it's adopted, or if we need to do another bill.
I'm going to just hold this bill a couple of weeks and check that out. Because
Sure.
I'd like to ask, but I thought there was some sort of neighborhood cooperation required.
Right, under the separate code, it's not land use, that's correct.
But it's not specifically cited here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not,
It's not even we propose it.
So we can hold it in advance if you like, and we can look at the amendments.
Yeah. By the way, this really is a downtown bill. A lot of people want are raising the eggs, and they want safe eggs, and they don't want to come outside eggs, and so that's why they're doing it. I have a neighbor right behind me who has several chickens. I see them, so I can't count. They don't make much noise when they do. It's kind of fun. That's not my kind of thing. So it may be a day sleeper kind of thing where you need to have some neighborhood cooperation. I would say, let's obey this till the next meeting so they can clarify. Well, when's the next date of the meeting? What's the date of the next? November 13th. I move that we obey this bill to November 13th.
So just a couple, and I'm good with that. So does the city council have to approve a residence having chickens under this ordinance?
No.
So, because I mean, I like the neighborhood meeting thing, so what happens at a neighborhood meeting?
Well, I think the provisions don't talk about a meeting, they talk about whether there's neighborhood objection or consent.
Well, so what?
Within a certain distance.
So
You
what
need
if-
to get it under Title VII in order to have it within a certain distance. And so we'd have to look at whether we amend that or remove that requirement.
So what if there's neighborhood resistance? What happens?
Maybe Vicki
Well,
has.
if we amend this, then we can.
What?
Hi, good morning. Code Enforcement Supervisor Vicki Izuna. Currently, the way Title VII reads is all the neighbors within 350 feet of the property have to sign off that they approve the chickens, the existence of the chickens. So unless we repeal that or amend it in some way to change it, currently what animal control goes through right now is if they don't receive all of the signatures from everybody, literally one neighbor can stop people from being able to have chickens in the residential rural estate.
So that's the way it's going to be amended, or that you want to change?
I believe that you wanted to take away the consent from the neighbors. That's what we were proposing, but,
No.
no? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I address
Yeah.
this? No, not at all.
Okay.
Sorry, you said that meeting, so the point was not the footage, but the adjacency.
Just the immediate
There's
adjacent
an
property?
objection from someone with adjacent residential property. That doesn't count on the house across the street,
Right.
but rather the 4 or 5 houses that are in adjacency to that property. And I think that's sufficient, and they work it out amongst themselves. So I think we need to make sure we do it.
Okay, so the direction from you is that the people that live adjacent to that property that wants chickens, they have to agree to it? And if they do not, they can't have it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all right, so you guys can work this out in the next couple of weeks, and, okay, and motion is to obey it till when?
Till November 13th.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Kind of get the feelings once you're out in the country.
I've heard they can jump 6-foot walls, so. They have to be improved. That's their.
Fly.
You don't want chickens flying pools and
No
around.
throwing like, Bruce, I didn't know there was such a thing as a non-throwing rooster. Can you have vocal cords in it?
You can't have a chicken flying.
It just
around.
You get the vocal cords
It'll be a
removed just before
disaster. I'll get sued. Okay. All right, we've chickened at the death, so let's go to item number 5. Bill number 2017-38 for possible action, amend section 19.12.070 of the Unified Development Code to authorize a limited expansion, enlargement, or alteration of nonconforming adult motion picture arcades located within the downtown Centennial Plan area. Sponsored by our city attorney, Brett Sherwood.
Yes, Val Steve, Deputy City Attorney,
Hi, Val.
with the presentation here. You recently processed an ordinance that would do the same thing within the downtown Centennial Plan area for what we call adult emporiums. As this was going through, we realized that the site that was the impetus for this bill also had motion picture arcades. And so we needed to follow what we did a few meetings ago with the portion of it that pertains to adult motion picture arcades, so that they could do that expansion or relocation if they wanted to. So this is the kind of cleanup that Brad here referred for.
Okay, so this has to do with the building council law.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
It affects that specifically, but of course it has broader applications.
Okay, anyone from the public wishing to speak on this
Can
item?
we ask legal for more information first? before-
You want to ask? Sure.
I do.
go ahead.
I want to make sure, because there's a lot of information flowing around about that this calls for an expansion of the arcades. When I said to the original bill drafting, lock, stock, and barrel, that means moving it all. And I think I have that email somewhere. What I meant, and what was left out of the original bill was the idea that it goes over like it is, but booths would stay the same, there wouldn't be any bigger, or I should say the number, whatever, the square footage of occupied by booths. Does that allow you to expand? Because if it does, I don't want that to happen.
Well, right now you have a blanket prohibition on any expansion, enlargement, or alteration, as you did with the adult emporium aspect. This removes that blanket prohibition so that enlargement and expansion and alteration can occur, but it's going to be subject to a site development review. Is that correct, Peter?
That's correct.
So when they come forward and have their proposal, you're still going to be able to review that. It's just the automatic prohibition is taken away.
Okay, so but now we've added an additional license.
Right.
What was left out of the first one?
What was left out of the first one was and it's a zoning term rather than a licensing term. The zoning term was adult emporium before, and this adds to adult emporium the adult motion picture arcade, which is a subset of your sexually oriented businesses in the zoning code.
there any possible other licenses involved with these adult licenses?
I don't know. I tend not to know about that sort of stuff.
Okay, all right. That's supposed to be my excuse for introducing it. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now,
All right, anyone from the public want to speak on this agenda item?
Yeah.
If you want to, then take a seat right up in front, right there, and state your name and make your comment.
Yeah, I'd like to, Mike Ganson, I'd like to commend the city on its position on the center and gender identity and its adoption of that ordinance or that facility there. And that the idea here that we're going to move forward with the development of my neighborhood and allow that facility to be fixed up and make the owner happy, and hopefully we'll be able to deal with the community members with this expansion. So I am in support of this bill, and the sooner that the city gets out of the sex business and let the marketplace decide, I think the better off we'll all be.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. State your name.
Melissa Clary, and I'm in Huntridge Neighborhood Association, and I'm an officer of the association. And I oppose the adult arcade booth change. This was one of the specific conditions neighbors opposed in the recent text amendment, and yet now the city is considering this cleanup to that bill. And I think that shows that that bill, the initial bill, was done in haste, especially in light of the zone-based, form-based zoning code that's pending. I think that we should have waited to make this change to the ordinance because of that. Additionally, I found a lot of research that shows sex businesses hurt the neighborhoods as far as retail sales. They create dead zones, and that area of the Strip is already suffering. I think expanding that seedy aspect of that shop is just going to make it worse. Plus, they haven't made improvements to begin with. Even after the recent change, nothing's been done. The businesses also harm property values for residential areas. It has been proven in many communities. And they can also lead to an increase in crime because they are more of a regional attraction, so they bring in strangers who don't need to be in that immediate area, and that exposes the neighborhood to further potential for crime increase. And I know Metro, they weren't able to be here, but they can also weigh in on that, because I know our downtown area command officer was not in support of that change. So really, I think it's been a hasty passage of the initial text amendment, and I think it's evident with this cleanup bill. And I ask that the city do not pursue this recommendation going forward to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean S. Musin, John S. Park neighborhood. I was one of the neighbors that did participate in quite a few of the neighborhood meetings with representatives of the building, and it went from a very hostile situation to, we did come to an agreement that the element that the majority of the neighbors who were against the building was the viewing booths. And we were told that if it would help create a acceptable situation with the neighbors, that would be an element that they would quite willingly be able to consider eliminating on the new building to create a new, nicer element rather than, yes, the seedy element, which is what we were all against. That was communicated in each of the neighborhood meetings to the point that at the end we thought it was well understood and accepted, and even the representatives of the building were saying, okay, we can make this happen if it will create that goodwill with the neighborhood. And then we turn around and suddenly it's being totally eliminated and left to be a matter that some people are saying was never discussed and never heard of and never agreed upon. So as a member of the neighborhood, I would like to also see that that element is not expanded or suddenly thrown back into the mix, because A lot of meetings went into it. A lot of give and take was discussed, and that was the one element we were really asking to be left off. We don't want, I live there, I come home from work at night, I don't want to see the streetwalkers standing there, and yes, they could stand anywhere, but it just happens to be coincidental that it's there. That element being added to it, if it wants to be a clean, nice building, it doesn't need to be there. They're expanding their business and their revenue intake to a different area. It would be nice if that was left off.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, David Figler, 1302 South 6th Street, president of the John S. Park neighborhood. Also have an interest in the 10,000 square foot commercial property that is at 550 East Charleston, which is Charleston and 6th Street, which is also in the John S. Park footprint. We just moved into there, so we're happy about that. And if anybody wants to rent out some space in there, we've got some extra. It's a great space. It's the old Berkeley Bunker building. So I come in opposition from my entire neighborhood with regard to the expansion of the video booth arcades. We could just call it the booths. The booths have been the core and central issue with the neighborhood concern about this particular business for decades. Understanding that they were grandfathered in and that the city council, in its wisdom, decided that this type of activity, especially these booths, were non-compatible and non-conforming with an adjoining residential neighborhood. That was something we had to live with because they're grandfathered in. Because of representations from a impetus site that they would allow their building to remain in blight unless they were given the opportunity to expand their building and make it all beautiful. They needed a law change to do that, and so something new was created, adult emporium. As the neighbors understood it, we wanted to make sure along the entire neighborhood meeting process and discussions with all the parties involved, both in government and in the developer, that the booths be left out. And there's a reason for that, and I would like to explain that in great detail because that is the one element that is missing from all record, is explaining the booths specifically. I appreciate the representation that this is a cleanup because there is indeed a conflict within the ordinance because it does not allow, Adult Emporium did not bring in booths, and I think for good reason, because Adult Emporium makes more sense. If you're going to have a non-conforming adult use that's adjoining a residential neighborhood, and this would be the only one, this one site that is adjoining residential, all the others that would be impacted are in more commercial areas, none are residential like this one, that it would be focused on retail items for purchase and carry away, not for lingering, not for attracting potential problems for the neighborhood. So let's talk really very briefly about these booths and what you're voting to expand if the recommending committee goes forward and the city council goes forward. Booths are an anomaly. They're an artifact. The booths originally had a ostensible purpose of allowing people to preview videos before they would go and purchase them. That was in the 80s. It wasn't true then, and it's far less true now, that is the purpose of these booths. Nobody, I repeat, nobody is going to pay $1 for 60 seconds to preview a DVD that is for sale for $1 out in the store floor, and that is the price. That is a falsehood. That is a pretext. That is not the purpose of these booths. The purpose of these booths is a privacy area, and in the Citus in particular, when they give the tours of it, they're empty, they're clean, they're pretty. When somebody would randomly go into one of these, and having represented, but not currently, but represented adult businesses in the past as an attorney, I could tell you what the problems with those booths were. And I could tell you what the actuality and the practicality of the booths are. In this particular site, there is a black curtain that is pulled back when they do formal tours.
You mean like a door? I mean like a motel room?
There is a curtain that is pulled back. So when you go in there, it looks like you have plain view into the booth areas. However, practical day-to-day use, the clerks pulled that closed so that there is no line of sight from the clerk into those areas, giving them an additional area of privacy. Inside the booths, indeed, pornographic and First Amendment protected videos play inside the booths themselves. But the booths themselves are either fully or partially obscured, which would allow for sexual activity as a seduction type thing with other people who are walking by, and for drug use. This particular site has 50 times more police calls than any of the other sites. They are also the only one that uses the booths as a primary draw in. However, in speaking with the owner of this property, the actual booths themselves are a de minimis amount of retail of earnings rather for this particular business. When asked why they would continue to have this there, knowing that either illegal activity is occurring back there or that it's a constant strain on their clerks to identify and kick out people who are engaging in illegal activity, or that they are constantly cleaning up hypodermic needles, condoms, etc. within these booth and semi-secluded and fully secluded areas in the booth area, the owner told me because, quote, nobody tells me I can't do something. That is not a good public policy reason to continue a non-conforming sexual use in a residential or adjacent to a residential area. So it doesn't create and stimulate business in the retail. It allows for lingering. It draws illegal activity. It causes a strain. And now let's get to the deal. It's been expressed to me that this business is going to allow it to remain in blight unless they're allowed to expand and rebuild and knock down and keep their sexual-oriented businesses. So City responded with a adult emporium expansion. Great. They can do that now. They can tear down the building. They could build up a beautiful big building. They could put a pad with an El Pollo Loco, I think was the last one that was suggested that was going to be there. Even though that is unreplicated anywhere in the entire valley, that a sex shop, especially one that has booths in it, has any retail next to it, this is going to break the mold. But there is no guarantee that they are going to do that. Indeed, what appears to be happening at the property right now is that they are knocking down walls or attempting to knock or preparing to knock down walls within the building to expand the video booth component. Now, I understand they would be subject to site review, but right now they're disallowed from doing it. So if you're giving them the entitlement to increase their booths from about what I think they have now is 13 to, let's say, 40, there's nothing in code that says they can't have 40. So you're having a site review. What would planning say? What would city council say? We don't want to have 40 or 14 or 15 or 18. And then how do you prepare yourself against the suit saying, look, we have the authority under the code to expand these unlimited. Why are we being disallowed? What part of the code tells us that we can't have 50 booths in there? Why can't we? Because you've made a non-conforming use into a conforming use. So whether they want to expand the number or not, it's just a bad idea to have these booths in it. They can blow out that building. They can build whatever they want. They can have retail to their heart's content. But if the city is interested in good planning, and you are also going to allow a sexual-oriented business adjacent to a neighborhood, then it should be for a destination, purchase, leave. Because when they kick out the drug users eventually, when they kick out the people who just shot out, guess where they go?
Yeah, to my house. That's where they go.
Exactly. And so I appreciate that Mr. Ganson wants to support it, but this is the secondary impact, because they do go there. So if we make a nice sex shop that just has retail, that is in conformity with something that could exist or coexist with the neighborhood, then go for it. There's no reason for this cleanup. The owner can do whatever they want to do with that property now under adult emporium. They just have to follow the law. Don't expand the law and give them a benefit, especially since there's no guarantee that they're going to build anything beautiful, that they're not going to just stay in that building.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to comment? Okay, I may have a couple of questions, but I'll let you go first, and maybe you'll answer them. Go ahead.
Well, I've lived within close proximity to this store for 30 years. So I've been used to this because the owner said, our store was ugly. Well, it's not just the store, it's the quarter acre, what's a full acre, I guess, of land. there, and the city, they kept it just short of life. But in fact, since this discussion came up, they've cleaned up the yard. But it is not within the power of the city to do anything more than make them cut down weeds over, 8 or 10 inches high. They get better. It's like, so there's no incentive to move to a nicer building. The previous non-conforming use statute said that they cannot change anything, so they couldn't even alter the building to try to make it look good. There was some question about whether they could paint. It was definitely something about can't do anything inside. So we, the council, in its wisdom 25 or 30 years ago, said you can't do anything. Thinking that they would go away. That they would just, the buildings would wear out and then suddenly they would become worthless. But in fact, that hasn't happened with any of them. So that ordinance hasn't worked previously. So that's why we passed the other ordinance. Now, the request on that ordinance was to move it all, lock, stock, and barrel. So that meant everything. Due to a drafting error, that doesn't mean somebody made a big mistake, it just means they got left out. The second license wasn't transferred, apparently. I guess that's how this works, and that's why that second license becomes an item. Question, Val, or anybody else who is here on legal, would the city have been able to revoke without particular cause that doing lounge license, that theater license, that arcade license? Would we have, should we have not liked if we had deemed it to be unpopular? Because it's been alleged to be a plague of the community. Would we have been allowed to take that license?
You could have revoked a license for violation of city codes or Nevada revised statutes, if that's what's happening in there, just like any other licensee. But short of violations of code, the answer would be no.
Yeah, so there are rights involved here. Yeah, I know the other businesses on the street support it, so not kind of an argument about hurting their businesses. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know if there are any representatives of the here. Okay.
I've had discussions with
Excuse me, you're going to have to.
I'm sorry.
Bless you, Mike. If you're going to talk,
Excuse me.
Yeah,
you missed your opportunity, but if you haven't told something to clarify.
I do. I have talked with the owner's
Identify
representative.
yourself, okay?
Yeah, Mike Ganson, 1100 South 6, previous vice president of the John S. Park neighborhood. But I have had discussions at length with the owner's representative, and that portion of the business, they're willing they're willing to give that up. That's not a condition for them to move or to expand. That's not a big part of their business. The idea with the advent of technology today that people need the viewing rooms is something of the past. They have it. It's on their phones. It's on CDs. It's in their homes. So
But you're not representing the business.
no, I'm representing a conversation that I have had personally because I have spoke in favor of this project before of the expansion to clean my neighborhood up, and it is not adjacent to.
We've already heard you support the ordinance.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to get. I want my neighborhood cleaned up.
There's nobody here representing the business.
No.
Okay, that's all right, because it's an administrative sort of thing we're talking about here. Would that arcade business, well, let's put it this way. Is there anything in the initial, in essence, in effect, adult emporium ordinance that would allow them to say, leave out booze, but use that space? In essence, if they give up booze, would they then be able to fill that space with their regular retail stuff?
Yes, without this ordinance, they would be able to do that.
So they wouldn't lose square footage.
Right, but again, they would need to come forward for the major site development plan review and talk to the council about that. But if they are not continuing, expanding, altering, or relocating the motion picture aspect of it, but in fact eliminating it, then this bill doesn't even need to go forward. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, I'm in a quandary here because I understand the objections. I think they're overstated, but I've only lived there for 30 years and in this town 65, and Gansa and I are the two closest residents to this store, so I'm puzzled about some of the opposition, particularly when it is, I visited this place numerous times without employment, so it ain't like being portrayed. On the other hand, maybe we do compromise if in fact we can clear, well, you have clarified for the record that this would not limit their expansion under the new ordinance, that they in fact take the space that they might have used for an arcade kind of thing, and then use it for their retail stuff that they sell. But, well, I guess that makes sense. I'm going to trade off their land on here. So in essence, you're saying that I could withdraw this bill at this point. That's an answer I should have asked for. I was out of town all week.
Right, you could recommend that the council strike it or not adopt it. You can't really withdraw at this point because it's already on the council agenda. But it's up for consideration till Wednesday.
So that'll be on regardless.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, then we don't have to take a vote on it today. Let's just
No, we got to make a recommendation.
make a no recommendation to council. Move for no recommendation to council.
Okay, there's a recommendation to deny this ordinance. All
No,
those-
it's not to deny.
To forward with no recommendation, I believe is.
Oh, you don't? Okay. you-
We have that ability
So what's your motion?
to move forward to council with no recommendation, because it's going to go to council.
Okay. With no recommendation?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
48 hours and figure out capital. Especially on the idea of downtown area command, because I know that they told my staff they're not working. So I don't like,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would you,
Yep, thank you, Val. And this, this recommendation, this moving forward with no recommendation. I've got to say that. Moving forward, no recommendation will be heard at the November 1st City Council meeting in 2 days. All right, thanks. All right, bill number, this is agenda item number 6, bill number 2017-39, the city's administrative code adopted by LVMC 16.02.010 to require baby changing tables and certain public accommodations as required by Assembly Bill 241 of the 2017 session of the Nevada Legislature. Tom Perigo is the sponsor. Tom, and go right. Okay, you're representing Tom Perigo. Go right.
Kevin McCosker, Acting Director of Building and Safety. This is an amendment to our building code in response to AB 241, as you mentioned. This requires baby changing tables in all permanent facilities that contain public restrooms. Exempted are age-restricted occupancies and uses. This is similar to what the other jurisdictions are doing in the Valley. This should be pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, we have to answer.
And this was a law signed by the governor and passed by the legislature directing all cities to do this?
Yes,
Or
sir.
counties, city counties, everybody, okay. All right, okay, thanks. Okay, public comment. Anybody from the public want to weigh in on this? Okay. No public comment. Councilman Coffin, you have a motion?
I'm so sorry. That was requested by Perigo.
Yep,
Yeah.
baby changing table. Okay, motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Yes, then I have to sit right in front of you too. This permanent recommendation will be held on November 1st, 2017, in 2 days. Okay, item number 7, citizen participation, public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. No subject may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action if you wish to be heard. So anybody want to talk about anything? Okay, we're done.
Move for adjournment.
All those in favor, aye. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah.